Um, okay. Last time we did. Okay. Good evening to you all. Thank you for joining. Today marks our. This is week 4, I think. Week 4. So thank you for joining and thank you for staying till now. Mm, Last class we studied. We looked at typography in branding and logo design. That was on Tuesday. On Wednesday, nobody joined the class on Wednesday. So we ended up having no class on Wednesday. And now on Friday, and today we'll be seeing print design. Focus on for print design, that is posters, flyers. One thing I also omitted here is how do you call it again? Business cards. Business cards. So we'll also be looking at layout sizes and bleed as well in today's program. Are you all seeing my screen? Let me first of all make sure of that. Are you seeing my screen? Okay, you're seeing my screen and you're hearing me. So, print design, posters, flyers, business cards are all print design. So, what we'll be treating today is understanding print is digital design, standard poster, flyers, and business card sizes, what is blade trim and safe zone, setting up a print ready document in Photoshop and Illustrator, layout and grid principles of print design, and design demo. So, go through design demo. And the objectives of this lesson is, by the end of this lesson, you should be able to set up a new document of print, proper dimensions and blade, understand the key differences between print and digital workflows, apply effective layout techniques for posters, flyers, and business cards, which is omitted, prepare and export designs for high resolution printing. So, let's also understand the difference between print and digital design. And the first aspect is color mode, right? For printing uses CMYK color mode, while the digital designs for social media files uses the uh, RGB. The RGB is the RGB. Okay, please give me a minute. Let me. Why will we? Okay, we're here on aspects, right? We said print is digital design. An aspect, first aspect was color mode, right? We said print uses CMYK color mode, while digital designs use the RGB color mode. Now, CMYK simply means their colors, right? C stands for cyan color. M stands for magenta. Y stands for yellow, and K stands for key. It's actually the black color. And for digital designs, we have red for R for red, G for green, and B for blue. So for resolution, print design, it's better to export your design in high resolution, which is 300 dpi dots per inch. But for digital designs, 72 dpi is enough. But you can as well export it in 300. It doesn't destroy the image. So the output format for print designs, if you're doing something you're going to print it, then you want to export it mainly as a PDF. A PDF. So if you want to print something, do not export it as a JPEG or PNG. Those ones are for screens. If you want to print, you have to export it as a PDF. You save it as a PDF. And for digital, you save it as a PNG, a JPEG, or an SVG. Right? Talk about SVG, scalable vector graphics, which are used for web. So the intent, right? Print designs are meant for physical distribution.
I think you're on mute. I can't hear you. Or am I
Oh,
the only one?
I was actually on mute. I was actually on mute. Sorry about that. I have to go through it all over again. Okay, speaking about the color mode. For print, we have the CMYK, and CMYK simply stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and key black. So they are colors. So the colors used in printing. And digital, digital, the color mode to digital is RGB, which is red, green, and blue. These are the main colors, right? Are the main colors. And these are the main colors for print. Resolution 300 dpi and 70 dpi for screens. But this one you can as well put it at 300. It doesn't matter. It won't spoil the image, right? But 72 is usually okay. But if you want to print it, then it's usually best to put at the highest possible resolution. So to maximize on quality in this printing. For the output format, PDF. If you want to print anything, save it as a PDF. PNG and JPEG are for screens only. But if you want to print it, then save it as a PDF. And for yes, and then the intent, right? Print are for physical distribution. Print flyers are for physical distributions, while digital flyers are for online sharing. So always clarify the final use of your design before you begin. So when you're designing, you have to understand: are you designing for print? Are you designing for social media? You have to understand what you're designing for when you start your design, because this also affects like the frame size you're using, or even the frame size you're using, the resolution you're exporting at, and the color mode you're saving at. So you have to understand what you're designing for. Here's some common print sizes. So you can screenshot this for later use. You can screenshot this page. Some common print sizes for A4, A5, A3, US letter. So all documents should be designed with blade and margin zones in mind. So later in this in this episode, we are going to see what bleed is actually. So I've screenshotted it so we can go to the next page. So setting up a print document. So the way you set up a print document is the exact same way you set up any document. But there are just some key things you have to adjust when setting up your print document. So the same process goes for Photoshop and Illustrator. You set the size in inches and millimeters. It's not to set how to set the size with your file name. Set your resolution to 300 dpi, color mode to CMYK, and these two here, resolution and color mode, are not very important because you can always arrange these settings when you're exporting. Right? You can either do it when you're creating your file or when you're exporting. However, bleed is important because you need this when you're creating your file at a 0.25 bleed on all sides, and use guides to mark trim on safe areas. So we'll actually see what bleed is all about in the next slide. So first of all, we're going to go to Illustrator now and create a new file. So here is where you set your width and your height. So as we said for okay for A4 was for A4 was okay A5. Let's say A5. 5.35, 8.27 inches. 5.83, 8.27. So I'll go here and select my inches. That's 5. I can put here 5.37. Is this 5.37? 5.83, 8.27. 5. 83, 8.27. So my file size has been set. Now, coming to the blade, what do we say about the blade? I have to set the blade about 0.125. So we set our blade here to 0.125. Here on all sides, you can set the color mode to CMYK. Your resolution now is well, set to 300 and create your file. So this is how it's going to look like. This red line here, which you see, is what we call the bleed. This red line here. So, so what is actually bleed or trim or safe zone, right? In print design, these are words that you hear very commonly that you don't hear in social media design. Now, bleed area, the bleed, the bleed area, content that exceeds beyond the final cut size. So a bleed area is the content that exceeds beyond the final cut size. So this is like, um, so this is the size of our document, right? So this here is the content that exceeds beyond the final cut size. This part here. So now, if you've ever printed anything, you notice that when you're printing something, it usually comes out with these white borders, right? These white borders. And these white borders here, as a result, it comes as a result of not adding bleed on your print design. The reason why we add this bleed is to avoid those white borders at the end. These white borders. That is the reason we add bleed. So you can see the example here, right? This is the size of the document here. This green part here is your safe zone. Meaning that what when you're putting your contents in your print document, avoid putting it right at the edge. If you've used Microsoft Word before, when you're typing your document, you see that there's always an empty space, right? That you cannot type on are your borders, right? So that is called the safe the safe zone. This zone here, just like on Microsoft Word, where you can type. So when you're designing your flyer, for example, unlike Microsoft Word where you cannot write at the edges, here you can write anywhere. So it is up to you to understand that there is something called a safe zone which you must respect. So for example, this is the edge of my document. I'm not going to come and put this text here right at the edge of my document. I'm going to put it somewhere like this. So this is to establish a safe zone. So this is my fictional safe zone here, as I got from Microsoft Word. So my text should not exceed this safe zone. This safe zone is particularly for text. So images, depending on how your layout is, you can as well put your images maybe to exit like this. The text is very important because if people cannot see your text, then they can't read it. If you take this text and put it, then it cuts like this. And the reason why we avoid to put this safe zone, the simple reason why we put this safe zone is when your document is going to be printed, it's going to be cut out, right? You're going to print many copies on one paper. And if your text maybe falls like this, and the person who's cutting it makes a mistake and cuts it at this level here, what happens? Information has been lost. So let's say it was your contact info, right? That was here. That was here at the bottom here. It was your contact info. And then the person who was cutting it came and cut it here like this at this point, came and cut it at this point here like this, cutting some parts of your contact info. So now how people contact you? So this is why you need to have a safe zone on your design, and that's why it's called a safe zone. So avoid printing, cut out mistakes after printing, right? So at least if you're putting your text like this here, you know that no matter what, the person doing the cutout cannot come and cut right up to here. So you have the blade area, just to avoid those white pieces, and also cutting, to ease cutting, right, without losing your content. That's why the blade is here. And to have a safe zone, to avoid putting your text at a risky part where it could be possibly cut out, maybe by mistake or by non-mistake. So with that, that is trimline. The trimline is area where the normal border of the file, the actual size of the page document is safe zone. Important content should stay inside this area, avoid being cut off. And the content that extends beyond the final cut size. So with this, do you have a better understanding of what bleed, safe zone, and trim area is?
I didn't understand the safe zone.
So what do you say about safe zone? We said the safe zone, important content should stay inside this area. Avoid being cut off, right? This here like this is the limit of your document, right? This was an A5 document. This is the limit here, right? And when writing your text, avoid taking your important text and putting it right at the edge, the limit, right? You have to leave some space, some margin here between your text and the limit of your document. Why? Because when a document is going to be printed, it's most probably going to be cut out, right? If you ever printed something, so usually to print many, for example, flyers. If you're putting an A5 flyer, you'll be printing like four on one A4, right? You'll be printing like four one A4 and then to now cut it before it comes out in A5 papers like that. Are you with me? You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, yes, I'm understanding.
So, so for example, let's just say this is your A4 document, right? So when you're designing in A5, you're designing in A5, this may be your A5. That's how a document is going to be put on an A4. You have like this one A5, then another A5 like this, then you have two others like this. That's how they're going to be put, right? Let's change the colors for clarity. My mouse is disturbing. Okay. So if you're designing, for example, in A5, right? So they're going to put like an A5 document is simply An A5 document is simply an A4 you have divided into two. So if this is an A4 here, this white one is an A4, right? If this white one is an A4, then an A5 is like this. It's half of an A4. It's an A5 documents. So what's an A6 now? An A6 is half of an A5. So this is an A6 here. Do you understand these documents? Hmm? So A6 is half of an A5, and A5 is half of an A4. So now, design your flyer in A6, meaning that one, you're going to put one, two, three, four of these A6 files on one A4 paper, and then they'll cut them out after printing. So you now have one A4 paper will produce how many A6? You produce one, two, three, four A6. So now, when this paper is going to be printed like this now, you're going to have to what? To cut it out. To cut it out. And this safe zone now is to prevent that when you are cutting out your text, this is your text here, this is your text. It prevents mistakes. Meaning that what? This was supposed to cut out, right? This is what the person is supposed to cut out. And the person is a human being. He might make a mistake. And you let's say come and put your file here, and then he instead of coming and cutting out, he made a mistake and came and cut out in this part here, but cut out here. So what happens to the text now? Instead of looking like lorem, it now looks like orem. The text has been cut out. Imagine if it was at your footer here. Imagine that this your text here was your contact information, right? This is your contact information they came and put here like this. And then after printing, the person made a mistake, right? And he came and cut it here by mistake. So what happens to your contact information now? Nobody can contact you because they cannot see your contact information because it was cut out. So to avoid these situations, you have a safe zone here. Safe zone simply means what? Allow some margin, some space here between your text and your borders. That's what safe zone means. It doesn't mean they come and draw rectangle inside. It simply means that you allow some space between your text here and your margins, right? That's what safe zone means. And then what does bleed means? Bleed means that when you're usually printing something, if you've printed something before, it comes out with some white borders. Some white borders. So to avoid these white borders, we add bleed here on our design. And when we're printing, instead of print, if we're designing, if I want to add this color, for example, here, instead of making my color to end here at this border, I will make it to end here instead. You see, while my text is within this safe zone, my background should be within the bleed section. So now, when the person will now print it, instead of this space being white, this space will now appear with this my background, right? This white color. So when he's going to cut it, the design is not going to have an odd white space at the corners. Is that clear? Is that clear enough? Any questions? Are there any questions regarding this? The questions asked before we move forward.
No questions for now.
Okay, excellent. So meaning that you've understood the concept of bleed, trimline, and safe zone. Even in your social media
Yes, I've
design,
understood.
Even your social media designs, right? It's good practice to use this safe zone. In fact, all your designs, it is good practice to use a safe zone. So it doesn't just prevent your text or your important information from being cut off. It also makes your design look cleaner, more balanced, right? It looks better when you add this safe zone to your design. So whatever you're designing for, it is best practice to add safe zone to it. But it is more important in print designs because of what? Cutout. So about the designs being cut out. So if you look at designs of professional designers, whether they're designing for print or social media, you always see this space here between the text and their borders. So they always make use of the safe zone. So now let's look at business cards, another very important part of print designs, business cards, especially when it comes to branding. So what's a business card? A business card is a compact tool for sharing contact and branding information. It's also the first impression of your business or personal identity. It is used in networking, meeting events, and packaging inserts. And one important aspect of this business card is it must be memorable, professional, and on brand. So now, why do businesses need a business card? Why do people, not business, why do people, individuals? Because business cards are not for businesses, but they are for individuals. So it's an individual. So the business card talks about like who the person is on the professional aspect. On the professional aspect. So your business card could include maybe uh, John Doe, brand designer, John Doe, uh, CEO of John Doe Business, founder of this, or web developer, AI engineer. So your business card represents you, right? Represents you, but professionally. The business card represents you professionally. So if somebody takes your business card, usually he wants to know, okay, who is this person? Okay, this person is John Doe, and what does he do? He is the CEO of John Doe Business. He is an AI engineer. He is a blockchain developer. What does he do? So now this gives us a first impression about you and your business. The first question about you and your business. If you've attended maybe networking events with professionals, usually ask when you discuss, be like, okay, if I want to contact you, I'll ask you, okay, can I have a business card? See, can I have a business card? So this makes you look more professional, right? More professional. And your business card also must follow your branding rules. If it's a business card for your business, then it has to follow the branding rules of that business. If it's a personal business card, then you have to follow your personal branding guidelines. Are you clear on that? Are we clear on that? So, what are some key elements to include on business cards? The first and most important thing is the name. So, what do we say about business cards? They represent you professionally. So, the person wants to know, okay, who is this? Not your business name, but your personal name, because it is to represent you professionally. The most important thing is your name. What is your name? My name is uh, John Doe. So now, what does John Doe do? What is John Doe's role? Right? John Doe is the CEO of maybe John Doe Business. John Doe is a graphic designer. John Doe is a business developer. Now, how can I contact John Doe? The next and most important thing. So you can contact him through the phone number, which should be there, his email address. So now, what uh, does John Doe? Who does John Doe work for? Right? Who does John Doe work for? It can be if it's your personal business, you can have your logo there. If it's for somebody else's business, you can have the company logos, the company's logo there. So let's say you're working maybe for you're working, for example, you're working for Leke as a brand designer, for example. So your business card may include your name, your position as brand designer, would include Leketech's logo, to present okay, you're a brand designer at Leketech. Okay. Then it includes Leketech's website and social media. Now, if it was for a personal business, for a personal company, let's say your name is John Doe and it's John Doe business, you might say maybe John Doe is a graphic designer. Let's say John Doe is a graphic designer and he's making a business card for his graphic design business. So his name might be John Doe, job title, graphic designer, phone number, email address. And if he has a personal logo, he would actually put it there, his personal logo. If not, he could just leave it as it is. Then his website, maybe his social media, and maybe a QR code address. If he has maybe a physical office, maybe an address, his QR code maybe to contact him by scanning the code, or maybe to head to the website by scanning the code. So you have to understand if it's does is this business card is it for a person within a company or is it for somebody's personal business? So some of the key considerations to consider aside from these elements to include. So only include what's necessary, don't overcrowd. A business card is not it's not a flyer, right? It's not a flyer. So avoid overcrowding it with too much information. Only include what is necessary in a minimalistic way, a very minimalistic way. So the most important information there is the name, the position, the contact details, right? Somebody gets your card, you should know, okay, this person is what to represent. So what I usually add, especially when it concerns like business cards for companies, right? For companies, what I usually add is services. So somebody gets this, okay, I am, for example, I am John Doe from John Doe Business, right? I'm the CEO of John Doe Business. But that doesn't really tell me what John Doe Business does. It's different when I put like John Doe graphic designer. When I put graphic designer, somebody sees the card, understands that John Doe is a graphic designer. But what you card like maybe for I'm a small business owner, for example. I'm a small business owner and I offer services, different services, graphic design, web development, and and when I put, for example, if I put Leketech, for example, uh, CEO, somebody sees the card, it doesn't really give the person information about what it's about. Why should the person contact this information? Let's just say the person had this card without actually meeting me. So in this situation, I usually add a little extra the services, which at least you can list like just a few, but avoid too much information. Put things very simply and clean in the design. And you have to understand that business cards are very small in size. So you should only use text which are legible in small sizes. So here's some standard business card sizes. The standard one is this is the standard here. These are other alternatives here and here. This is the most common here. You can screenshot this page as well. Also, when designing your business card, make sure to add some bleed inside because a business card is also a print design. So, layout and composition for business cards. So, the front page should include things like the logo and some clean brand visuals. By brand visuals, we mean like maintaining the color scheme of the brand, maintaining the icon type of the brand, maintaining the typography of the brand. So, have the logo and some clean brand visuals. And sometimes only the icon or strong color. So it's something if you want to, so it depends on how you want to design it, right? So what it's simply saying here is simply that your front could also include maybe just the logo and a colored background, as simple as that. Or in some cases, the in some cases the business card is just one page, maybe just front, no back. So everything is from the front page. There's no back page. So these are also some considerations we have to take care when designing a business card. Is it recto verso or is it just recto? So if the client wants a recto verso, say okay, meaning that at the back, at the front, you can put maybe the logo and some clean brand visuals, and at the back, you put some details. However, if it's just a recto, then everything has to be on the front page and nothing at the back. The reason being that recto verso is more expensive to print than just recto. So it's good to clarify with the client what he wants or what suits him best. So at the back can include the name, title, contact details, make sure typography is legible, and align content with create a balance. But as I said, do not stick to this. You can customize this based on based on what what particularly you're designing for. For example, here was for a on this example here was for a business which dealt with um, electronics, right? Logistics and electronics. So let's say I had put this business card with the name with a CTO, title CEO, and the logo, contact information, right? This to somebody who takes this business card without discussing with this person would not really know what this person does exactly or what he can do with this information, with this name and uh, with this phone number. So I tried to design in such a way that somebody takes this business card, you're able to understand what this person represents, not just by the company name, but by the services as well. So the client now requested an even more detailed breakdown of the service, which I added on the back page by adding some more details about what they actually sell, what phones, computers, professional cameras, and provide some images as well. So if you notice something, the design is very simple layout and straightforward layout. Remember, a business card is not a flyer. It's about pass and information very simply and cleanly. It's not about flashy design. It has to be clean and simple with legible text, which is legible at small size because it will be printed in small size. So basically, it was to look like this when printed. So now let's go to look at its layout and composition for flyers or posters. Flyers or posters. So use grids to organize information. And I don't know if I'd shown you about grids before, but we'll look at that. Let's look at that on Illustrator. Use grids to organize information. Apply visual hierarchy. We've spoken about visual hierarchy before. We spoke about visual hierarchy. We said visual hierarchy guides the user as to what he's supposed to see in which order, right? What he's supposed to see and in which order. So I have the headline, the subheading, the body, and this can be customized depending on your creative direction as well. Doesn't mean you have to stick to this template. It can be customized based on your creative direction. But it's just a simple breakdown of how it can be like. So use imagery, bold imagery that represent also what you're designing for, right? You, your design is not just speaking through text, but even the images which you use, it should also speak through the images you're using. Minimal text, so avoid overcrowding your designs with too much information. While writing your caption, you can put as much information as you want, but on your design, only put the essential that communicates the intent of the design. So you don't have to go and write the entire history or break down the details of the services on a design. That is not what you're supposed to do. You can do that on a brochure, right? On a brochure, a booklet, but on a design, social media design, or flyers as a whole, only the essential information. Another thing, if you really move around, you've seen like billboards. If you know what a billboard is, you know what a billboard is. You know what a billboard is. You know what a billboard is. You can send your response in the chat as well. You know what the billboard is. Are you guys listening?
Yes, I know what a billboard is.
Faith, are you there? Okay. If you notice on billboards, right? On billboards, for example, there's two key things you notice on the billboard: bold imagery and minimal text. Why is that? Because usually on billboards, when people are passing by, they are walking and going somewhere, or they are passing on bikes or cars. Most of the time, people don't stop by to start looking at the design to be able to read information there. So they are kept so minimal in their text and so expressive in the images, such a way that it wouldn't take up to 5 seconds for somebody to understand the billboard. So in your designing flyers as well, although you can add a little bit more details, but it's still the same concept, right? Nobody wants to take your flyer and start reading as though it was a book. So, or maybe when somebody is scrolling through social media, nobody wants to stay on your flyer, try to understand what you're trying to write there. So it has to be catchy and straight to the point. So other elements you can include a logo, your contact information. It's very important. Logo for branding. Logo makes the user understand who is actually doing this. Right? It's a service. Which company is doing this? The logo is there. How can I contact them? Through the contact information. And the CTA, called a call to action, is what you want people to do. So, for example, this flyer was for a crypto service, crypto service. And what do you want people to do once you see this flyer? You want them, first of all, the first thing you want them to understand is that it is a crypto flyer. So, from the title, which has been put in red and bolded, and is the biggest thing here, is to make people understand that this is a crypto. Trade crypto your way, fast, secure, and best rates. So it would take somebody up to 2 seconds to notice crypto, trade, and crypto on this flyer. So this person is already interested into crypto. He's going to stop immediately after seeing this crypto here. I'm going to try to read more. So now you have now the body here, which gives a little bit more information. Trade directly with us anytime, anywhere. We buy, we sell, we trade. This now gives a little bit more information about what we actually do without overcrowding. Very straight to the point and passing the information. So now this is still part of the body, best rates, fast payments, 100% reliable. So if somebody skips this, you won't skip this as well. So now, what do you want the person to ultimately do once he stumbles on this flyer? You want the person to what? To trade with us today. You don't want him to go and come back the next day. So you see code actions like order now, buy today, sign up now. You will notice that is because you want the user to do it at this moment. You don't want him to come back after and do it because after he might forget. You have a lot of things to do during the day. So your call to action simply means you want what do you want the user to do? Okay, I've read the information. What's the next step? The next step is show the us today. And how do you do that? By contacting us. Immediately below you have the contact information. So you see how visual hierarchy guides a user. And you see the text information, right? I'm sorry, the images. If somebody is used to crypto, then you simply recognize this coin here, the Bitcoin. And what you notice is this man's taking out his phone. You have some icons here which represent some cryptocurrencies here. And it seems to be looking at the phone because crypto transactions are done through the phone. So most of them should be done physically. So you can easily send the cryptos account going to be credited. So that's what this image represents. Somebody who just got credited and looks at his phone is happy. The money has entered. The money enters your phone. Everybody will be happy to see money entering his phone. So this image here communicates that aspect of okay, you've traded with us and you're happy. So this gives this feeling, okay, what happens when I trade with you? I'm going to look like this. I'm going to be happy because my account is going to be credited very fast, very reliable, and at best rates. So you see everything in the flyer not just guides the user across it, but also is to make the user do the intended action to guide the user into what you want him to do. So one thing you have to understand is when you're not designing for yourself, you're not designing for your client, but you're designing for your client's audience or for your business's audience, your viewers. It's not for you. So you always have to keep in mind what is it they want to see, what is it they want to know, and what is it you want them to do. So your visual hierarchy should guide them through that process. And balance white space for clarity, always important. Balance white space for clarity. It's all white space for clarity. Without this white space here, this design will definitely not look the same. It's an example breakdown of a flyer layout from top to bottom. So you have to include, since you can include, right, the logo, the brand name. Brand name in case you don't have a logo yet. If you have a logo, you can still include the brand name, the main heading, the promo, the description, the call to action, imagery or visuals that represents the flyer because image communicates without words. The contact details, I have the phone, website, the address, social media handles, or QR code to contact them or visit the website directly. So you can follow a Z pattern for the layout, right? For natural eye flow. For example, here you have the logo, you have the title here, the main headline, you have the body here, you have the image here, you have the sign up info here, here you have the contact info. So it guides the user in this kind of zigzag manner for easy flow throughout your design. So there are different types of way you can arrange your layout, right? 1,000 designers can design the same flyer in 1,000 different ways. So you can go through or go online for a search of inspiration if you like inspiration or sites like Pinterest.com where you can find inspiration. You will see a lot of different ways professional designers have designed a certain particular theme of like whether it's a restaurant flyer, an event flyer, a church flyer, and from there you can gain inspiration. It's not to copy their design, but gain inspiration into doing your own. So let's talk about exporting for print. The format for exporting for print is mainly the PDF, as we said before. Make sure your resolution is 300 dpi. Make sure your blade was included in your design and flatten, flatten or outline your fonts. This is a tip. It's not like an obligation. It's a tip. For it to look better when printed, you can flatten your fonts or outline them, convert them to outlines. But if you don't, it will still come out okay. Save font version with editable layers, that's Adobe Illustrator or PSD. Then you can save as PDF as well, or also as a JPEG or PNG. So we've reached the end of what we were to see today. So let's have some discussions as to what we saw. So first question is, why is blade important in print design? Why is blade important in print design? Why do you think blade is important?
It improves visual quality of the design.
It improves what?
The visual quality.
Not really. Blade does not include increase visual quality. Blade prevents white space at the edges of your design when printed. When printed. And it also so therefore helping for better cutouts. So meaning that when your design is going to be printed, you would not see any unnecessary white spacing on the borders. That's what Blade does. Took an example here, right? We took an example here. So this is the blade here, right? So when I'm going to add this my color, I'm going to put it so it touches this blade. So this is how my background is going to be. It's going to be here like this, right? And then the person going to print this design, right? When he's going to cut it, he's going to cut it here at this line here, right? Where my document normally ends, he's going to cut it here. And since we know that cutouts are not always perfect, even if you cut it at this point here in the middle here, there won't be what? An annoying white space at the edges. So my edges will have this same color, this same background as my design here. There won't be any annoying white spaces at the corners. That's what bleed does. It prevents annoying white spaces here at the borders when printed. So bleed is specifically for print designs. There's no need for bleed when doing for social media. So, is that understood? Let's look at the second question. What's the difference between RGB and CMYK output? What's the difference between RGB and CMYK output? Yes, RGB for digital and CMYK for print. So, what layout technique you've been designing so far, right? So, what layout technique do you find most useful in your design so far as you've been designing? So, there's so many ways to arrange your layout and your design. Yes, RGB indeed has a wider color range. RGB has a wider color range. CMYK is more simplified. It's more simplified. So when you're designing for print, also know how you're using your colors, right? It's not going to be exactly like it is on your screen because it depends on the printer's quality. Depends on the printer's quality. Yes, hierarchy is very important in your layout, right? Hierarchy is very important because hierarchy guides the user visually as to what he's supposed to do, what he's supposed to see. So what common mistakes to avoid when preparing files for print? What are some common mistakes to avoid when preparing files for prints? Yes, exactly. What are some common mistakes to avoid when preparing files for prints? It's not really guiding from most important to least important, but because, well, in a certain way you can say that, but not really, because in a file you're only putting the most important aspects, right? Most important information. So it's merely guiding the user across the design, bringing him to a particular place, right? Which is the call to action and the contact. So it's also guiding the user, guiding the user or the viewer for the design. So yes, forgetting to add bleed. What was the question again? What are common mistakes to avoid? Yes, forgot to add bleed. Yes, a mistake. You should add your bleed. Always give space to avoid it being cut off when printing. Yes, always maintain your safe zone. Right, maintain your safe zone to avoid some of your important text being shamed out during cutting after printing. So maintain your safe zone. Yes, design in CMYK for print and not RGB. So that is that means you understood the concept which have been taught. So as a practice activity, go to design an A4 print flyer for a perfume product, right? So this flyer is for a single product, a single perfume product. So you have to include something like a catchy heading, an image of a perfume, high resolution image of a perfume, a catchy heading, a call to action, and it can either have a subtitle or body and a call to action, right? As to how you're going to arrange your layout, you have full creative control over that. You need to add the title, subtitle, call to action, an image of a perfume product, then contact information, and then logo or brand name. For the logo, you can use the Leke logo and put it there, no problem. Or if you can think of a name, you can also do that. Maybe Jessica's perfume or something. Or if not, you can just put the Leke logo there. For the logo is an important part in this design. So you use the principles which you spoke about, right? Principles about blades, about safe zones, and you export it in PDF and PNG. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for attending. Next class is on Monday. Monday. Well, today was supposed to be a practical class, but since on Wednesday nobody joined, so we're doing what we're supposed to do on Wednesday prior today. So we've explained a lot of concepts in the past few classes, past few lessons. A lot of important concepts which you're supposed to understand and master and apply in your design. And next class we would do something strictly practical on Illustrator. We go through layouts, through the different tools, using and applying different tools on Illustrator. And also, well, we go through applying different tools in Illustrator in designing, in flyer designs and logo designs. So make sure you are there on Monday same time. So are there any questions? Any questions?